pulled out the top, I think I did 9 or 10 players in this draft, and just 2 quick thoughts on each. The thing you'd be the happiest about or the most excited for, the most encouraging thing, whatever, if the Patriots take that player, and then what your biggest question or concern would be if the Patriots take that player. And let's start off with the Heisman winner, Travis Hunter.
Hunter steps up. Hunter dives. Touchdown, Colorado.
All right, Travis Hunter, my biggest and most exciting thing. I think he is really the only player in this draft that has true wide receiver 1 coverage dictating receiver upside. That they might finally have a shot at getting that guy after all these years. My biggest question, well, he's never played receiver full time. In the development with the wide receivers coach and Todd Downing, who's never coached the position, can they get him to that potential? So it's kind of one and the same. But that's where I'm looking at him purely as a receiver at this point. And I'm excited about it, but I'm also nervous about it.
Yeah, my almost similar answers here. I mean, I think he's a true playmaker. I think in every sense of the word. I mean, along the lines of like the Chris Carters. I'm just going to catch touchdowns. Like I think a guy like him in the red zone, all these things. I think he's a superstar. He could be a superstar caliber player on and off the field for this team, something that I think they need big time. The negatives, again, like you said, playing the position full time and not just getting the development right, health reasons. He went down a few times. It's a couple years in Colorado. I wonder, can he fill out? Can he get bigger in his frame to where if he takes the shots over the middle or takes some of the big hits, could he hold up? But outside of that, I think he's a true potential superstar in this league.
It's a fair point. It's a good question. He is going to have to kind of bulk up a little bit in the NFL. Let's get to the other blue chip prospect, Abdul Carter. Kyle, how many of these are Gus Johnson? I'm okay if it's a lot.
I tried to find as many as I could.
Excellent. We should have thrown Jack Sawyer in here just to get that call of the interception on the goal line against Michigan. Abdul Carter, biggest plus. It's easy. Best player in the draft. They got the best player in the draft. And that would be the thing I'd be most excited about. Honestly, I know there's some worries about Carter's mental makeup. My biggest concern, how are you going to get Drake May help after using the 4th overall pick on Carter? Are you still going to be able to make significant investments around Drake May?
Yeah. I mean, Carter, I think with the defensive additions you've had, plus the guys they had last year, coming back healthy, things like that, I think putting him out there makes your defense elite. I think now you've gone from being a top 10 defense potentially to being one of the better top 5 defenses in the league. Now you're getting after the quarterback. Now you're forcing fumbles. You're forcing interceptions with your additions you've made in the secondary. All these things, you've made your defense explosive. But at the end of the day, your offense is still going to be the Patriots offense. And I think coming into the season, the biggest additions on this Patriot team right now was getting Drake May help, getting him protection, getting him guys that can catch the football, and even running backs. I think you kind of set yourself back offensively to be a dominant defense. And I think that's the only true negative with Abdul Carter. It's not his fault.
So maybe those two a little less realistic. We'll get into the more realistic names now. Let's start with Will Campbell, tackle from LSU.
So now all of a sudden, an arm length decides if I'm a good player or not. I think it's BS.
So biggest positive, kind of like with the Travis Hunter pick, they've needed a left tackle for so long, and they have one. And yes, he is a left tackle. I don't think he's going to have to move inside. I really don't. 33-inch arms, those will play. He's tremendously talented. You get a leader. You get a guy in the locker room. He probably checks more boxes for them than any player in this draft. I really think he does. The con is he doesn't have the typical prototype build for left tackle. I still think he can get by. But, I think now you maybe are investing in left guard somewhere else in the top 100. I think getting a good left guard to play next to him would be truly maximizing that pick. And it doesn't have to be 38, but, maybe one of those third rounders. I'd like to see him, make a point of getting a plug-and-play left guard if they took Campbell.
Yeah, I think the upside here is, this is the position we've been talking about for 2 years that they need the most help. You're in a position now to land an All-American left tackle who did it on the highest level of college football in the SEC and did it for a couple of years. I think Will Campbell he's the protection that Drake May needs. I think he's the smart pick. I think I wouldn't say the safest pick, But for what you need, yes, I'd take Will Campbell and I pair him up with Drake May until they both retire, if I could. And I think the negative is we're not sure if he's going to be a all-pro or just a good left tackle. I think that's what we're really splitting hairs about here. And I think he would be what this team needs the most and would allow the rest of the offense to really flourish by having Drake May's blindside protected for the next decade or so.
Well, he's not the only tackle at the top of the board. How about Arman Meu?
Seemed like he let out a primal scream every 10 yards, and then the last 10 was just one long scream.
That was after his impressive 40, and that's kind of my biggest upside. Tremendous athlete at the position. Rare kind of athlete at the tackle position. I think Josh McDaniels, you don't talk often about getting creative with offensive linemen, and that doesn't necessarily mean like throwing them passes and tackle-eligible stuff, but, you know, in the run game, pulling guys and things like that, he'd give him a rare athlete at that position. We've seen, and I'm not comparing the players outright, but like what a guy like Penei Sewell allows you to do when you have a true athlete at that position, but it's not his natural position. He'd have to be switching sides, which does worry me. They've tried that here the last couple of years, and it has not worked. And it's hardly a guarantee that he's seamlessly going to be able to go from right to left.
Yeah, in complete agreement. I think a couple things. I think he's potentially could be a solid tackle in this league because of his athleticism and because of his speed, quickness, all those things. I think he'd be extremely dominant in the run game. I think, like you said, getting a guy like him downfield as your lead blocker, meeting guys in the hole in the gap, I think he'd be explosive at that. Again, like last year, previous years, shuffling guys from left to right in different positions I don't think is the way to go for this team. I think they need stability up front. I think we need to know every week who's at left tackle, who's at right tackle, who's your guards, who's your center. And I think you need more consistency there. And drafting a guy that early to try and slide left to right because we're not sure, I don't think it's something you want to do. Look, if you was able to get him a little later in the first, sure. But I think the downside is he's not a left tackle, and it's the position you need the most.
We've also got some players that have built up some steam this week, in particular Jaylen Walker.
Pressure from Jaylen Walker, their leading sack man.
Biggest plus, Vrabel's going to know how to use him. And they're going to be able to get him. He's a multi-positional player, which I think scares some people. I kind of like it for the Patriots specifically. I think Mike Vrabel's going to get the most, and Terrell Williams are going to get the most out of a guy like that. The position thing doesn't worry me so much. It's the size. He's just a little undersized, especially if he's going to be playing off the ball a bit. And is that going to kind of force their hand to, you see this player on tape, you come up with all the fun ways that you can deploy him, but like physically, is he going to be up for some of those at the NFL level? But I actually don't doubt. I think a lot of people's biggest concern is he's a tweener. That doesn't bother me. That actually kind of excites me for the way they run their defense. I think they get creative with how they use him.
Yeah, again, similar to Abdul Carter, explosive player. Explosive in many different ways. Super athlete. Dominant again, SEC player, dominant on the highest level, true playmaker, be able to very versatile, use him all over the place. Just a guy as a fan watching, you're going to be watching him pre-snap to see where he's going to be. What do you think he's going to do? I think that'd be a fun thing to watch as a fan. On the negative is you mentioned his size or getting, could he be one of those guys that gets caught up in the traffic, gets caught up in the cloud? The situation where like last year they played Jacksonville, they're running 17 times in a row. How good are you when they're coming straight at you? Because of his size. And he has a talent, but what about that size? Could he get bigger? But if he gets bigger and adds more weight, does that take away his versatility and kind of make him not a one-trick pony, but more stable in one spot? So I think there's some question marks there. But again, I think if a Patriots fan saw him on the field every Sunday, I think they'd be pretty excited.
So those are the players at 4. I included some trade down players here. And this is actually interesting. I'm going to ask you a question before we get into this one. And that is Ashton Genty.
Look, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the running backs, but I'm not taking them at 4. I'm a fan of the running backs. I think running back in a weird way has become one of the more important positions again back in the NFL again. I look at all the top teams in the league. They all have dominant ground games. Now, some do it with multiple backs. I'm not taking Genty at 4, but I think Genty in the right situation is going to be a playmaker in this league. And if he gets around somebody with a halfway decent offensive line, I think he's going to be a dominant player in the NFL.
Well, so what I was going to ask you, my bad, Kyle, I have the list and I missed Mason Graham. We'll get back to him. Is it a Gus Johnson call? I still might want to hear it.
Unreal talent. And there he goes. Genty into the clear blue. Touchdown.
So you're a no on Genty at 4. I'm kind of with you. I'm not taking a running back that high. Let's say he falls to 9. He's far and away the best player on the board at 9. And there's a chance both tackles are gone. Would you take Genty at 9 if they trade back with the Saints?
Man, if the tackles are gone and he's the best player left, and Abdul Carter's gone, the Hunters are gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I might be tempted. I can't sit here and be a hypocrite and say, no, because I've been so high on running backs. If you can get him later in the first round like that, I think you might have to do it. Because, again, I think this helps out Drake May. It not only helps out Drake May, it helps out the receivers. Because now you run play action with Genty, all of a sudden all the linebackers and everybody's looking at him. And now it opens up your Stephon Diggs on the back end, your Hunter Henrys and your Pop Douglas underneath. It changes everything having an explosive running back there. And you've made some moves to where you've brought in a new center. You've brought in right tackles. You tried to address your offensive line. You've brought in more coaches on your offensive line. The draft doesn't end after that. You can still draft guards. You can still draft other positions. And I can't be a hypocrite sit here and say, no, don't get the running back. If he's there, you're at 9, and you can get Genty at running back, I'm here for it. I'll do it. Sure, why not?
Yeah, so if they take Genty, for me, the biggest plus, again, is they got a tremendously talented player. And they put some juice around Drake May. My biggest concern, 750 touches in 3 years. That's a lot. That's a lot at Boise State. And ideally, you're taking a guy in the first round for, 10, 12-year outlook. Are you getting as much long-term out of an Ashton Genty pick as you would maybe some of the other guys on the board? All right, now let's do Mason Graham, Kyle.
Marks didn't get there. Stoned at the line of scrimmage. Guess who?
Mason Graham.
So my biggest plus for Mason Graham, the front was arguably the worst thing the Patriots had last year, and you just continue to upgrade it. Him, Milton Williams, Barmore was at the offseason workouts. Like, you got a bunch of dogs up front, and you're still building to that. I worry about Mason Graham's size, especially. He's no longer going to be playing next to Kenneth Grant, who I think is one of the more underrated players in this draft, and he's still projected to be a first-round pick. I worry about Graham holding up strength-wise against NFL offensive linemen.
Yeah, I think similar here. I think was a dominant interior player. Did it on a high level. And look, I don't know. 2 months ago, we were talking about this kid being a top 5 pick, and now he's kind of sliding out there a little bit. But I think he'd be a big addition to this team. I think Milton Williams kind of changed people's the need for him. But I think having interior linemen, dominant linemen that can stop the run and, again, allow everybody else to eat behind them, I think is huge. Downside, his size. I mean, we've seen very few guys dominate this league in that position and in the trenches like that who are kind of undersized. Could he gain weight? Absolutely. But I think as of right now, you're looking at his size and wondering if he can hold up, unless the Patriots run something similar to what the Eagles did last year, just rotating guys in or out, and you're only putting them out there on third passing situations. But then again, why waste a 4th round pick on a fourth overall pick on a guy that can't be out there full time?
One more. Let's do Ted McMillan.
T-Mac, give him another 6.
Biggest plus, again, they're addressing the wide receiver position significantly. I don't know that he is the ceiling of Travis Hunter, but I do think he's a player that can be a really good player in the NFL. I don't know about great, and that's kind of my downside. He makes them significantly better at the wide receiver position. I don't know that he's the guy that fully checks the box. Like, I think, and I've made this comparison before, he's your T. Higgins. You still might need to go out next year and draft Jamar Chase in the first round. I think he's a really, really, really good Robin. I don't know if he's Batman.
That's good stuff. I don't know what to say after that, Alex. But I mean,
well, it's like if you're picking the guy that high, you kind of want him to be Batman. But like in this draft, there's not a lot of superheroes.
Yeah, it's true. You need Batman. It's Green Lantern. He's all right. But look, he's a good player. I'm amazed that his name has slipped out of some cases the top 10 in his draft as high as he was early on. I understand the 40 times and all that. Kind of some people base all that on pure, oh, he's not fast enough. It's like, well, he was a dominant player. He was a good player, extremely athletic, has the hands, has all the tools. I think he'd be a very good player with them, a compliment to Stephon Diggs on the other side. Like you mentioned, a good Robin. But I think the downside with him is the explosiveness in the unknown. I think there's still a little unknown with his game. And I think his ceiling for me could be somebody like a Puka Nacua. I think a bigger body, not extremely fast, but still a playmaker. But yet we don't know what Nacua looks like when he doesn't have Cooper Kupp on the opposite side. So I think it's a similar thing with him. But I got a feeling if this kid slides, the further he slides, and he ends up, the further he goes, the better chance he has of ending up with a good quarterback and a good team. If he falls to, God forbid, a Kansas City or a Baltimore or Buffalo, we're going to be looking back on this like that. How did they let this kid get out of there? But I think it's simply because the further he slides, the better opportunity he slides into when he gets into the league.
I'll tell you that I did a mock draft last week, the NFL mock, and I had him going 6 to the Raiders. After that, because I do it a couple I work through a couple different scenarios and decide which one I ultimately want to be like my mock and write about. So I ended up going with him 6 to the Raiders. If he doesn't go there, he could fall quite a bit. He could get into the teens if he doesn't go there. That's really possible. So we will see with him.